Hello and welcome back. In this video we will be talking about CSS Floats. So let's dive right into it and it'll make a little more sense. So say I've already typed in here, we're making a website. We want some navigation on the left hand side. So that's a pretty normal thing. You go to a website and some people have the navigation across the top of the page, and then on a lot of websites you'll see it down on the left hand side. So this is typical of a site, something like Yahoo or MSN or a site like that, and you'll see the links down the side. So it's not, it's 1 pixel solid. So let's bring that up here. Okay, so we can see we haven't really given any hints or information, so it takes up the full width here. And so if we were to try to add some text, what'll happen is it'll hop to the next line. And so, and we should, just to be consistent, let's make sure that that one has a solid border as well, just so we can see where one ends and another begins. Okay. So what if we wanted to make this just kind of on the left hand side, and everything else just sits next to it? So that's where floats come in. So we say float left. Okay. And now what happened here? Well, if we refresh the page here, we can see on the left hand side here, it's what's called floating. And if you wanted to make it pretty, you could set the padding and the margins and everything, but this is basically what it does. Anything you have float left, it's basically as if it's just kind of sitting there independently. It takes up the space and everything just kind of wraps around it. So there's two spots you see it a lot. You see it a lot in things like navigation, and if you want to make like a 3-column layout on your website, you would have on the left column you'd have a navigation floating to the left. You'd have the stuff in the center, and then you'd have another div floating on the right, and then your other stuff kind of sits in the center and wraps around it as needed. So another instance you'd see this is in things like news stories, and actually brought up Wikipedia to grab a paragraph, and I saw a perfect example of it. So let's well, before I show you it on Wikipedia, let me give you an example here. We'll use our cat from before, and then we'll say style float left, and then what we'll do is we'll use a paragraph. The paragraphs and divs are both block level elements, so they're similar. Since we're dealing with specifically a paragraph, let's be consistent and actually use a paragraph. So we've pasted our text in there, and so we have a left float, and we have our text in there, and should be able to preview it, and it'll actually maybe look a little, well, okay. So one of the points I wanted to make kind of apparent is as I resize the browser here, what'll happen normally is if there's not enough text, it'll just fill as much text as it needs. And if you had a giant block of text, or if they had their browser kind of pulled together here and smaller, what happens is the text will wrap around what's floating. So I don't know another way to describe it except for that it's floating. It's just kind of sitting there. It takes up space, and everything else kind of wraps around it. So Let's just so you can see what a right float looks like. Let's float it right, and then we'll refresh the page here, and it's similar. So you'll tend to see this on news stories, or anytime there's some sort of picture that kind of defines the text on the page. So news stories a lot of times. And then I guess I should show you what it looks like if you hadn't used the float. So that's what will happen is this, he's taken up everything from the left hand side to the right hand side, and then anything new appears underneath it. So I hope that makes sense. Just a kind of a general note, because I was looking for some text to copy and paste in for that cat picture, and actually I noticed an example of a float being used. They might not. There's a lot of different ways to do things in CSS, but functionally this is what a float would do. And so this is one of the, as you kind of get more skilled with the CSS laying out and formatting, what you might want to do is, as you're browsing the web, kind of look at things and pages and say, if I had to recreate that, how would I? And just in your mind think, okay, this down here they probably made this whole area here a div, and then they gave it a 1 pixel border, and then they gave it a light gray background, which is one of the CSS properties, and then these here are probably divs or paragraphs or something similar, and then these they gave a background but with no border, and they floated it here, and all these are probably individual paragraphs, and just kind of get used to seeing that. It's actually a little bit easier to do that now, because maybe 10 years ago web pages were a lot, I guess you could say, busier. They had a lot of things going on, and the whole Web 2.0 revolution, I guess you would call it, pages got a lot simpler, and you tend to see cleaner layouts, and it's a lot easier to look at a page and identify what they're doing. So mentally, if you see something you like, it's a lot easier to copy than maybe previously. So just keep that in mind. But floats are definitely something to kind of have in your toolkit. They might not be used as much as some of the other formatting stuff I've showed you so far, but a lot of times you'll end up using it maybe per site 4 or 5 times, and just something to have in your toolkit when you need to use it.